All right, guys, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. If you're someone who is seeking uncommon results, this podcast is for you. Success, happiness, and wisdom. What do these words mean to you? I think we can all agree that we'll probably all have slightly different definitions of each. In these podcasts, I get to dive deeply into conversations with some amazing innovators, influencers, and trendsetters that have had different versions of how they define the terms, yet have come out on the other side with amazing, uncommon results. At some point in their lives, they have decided to unshackle themselves from the norm and go beyond all boundaries. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of Beyond All Boundaries. Again, I'm John Dwyer, and it's been a while since I've done a couple of podcasts, but really excited to be back at it. And I got my good friend Dustin Hoog joining us today. And Dustin's been a coach for over 15 years in sales and marketing. And before we were talking, he just had and I think is pretty impressive, man. So, and I'm going to let you tell the story, right? But and then give a little introduction to yourself. But Dustin's done some pretty awesome stuff since January of last year to where we are today, and I really want to spend some time talking to him about that and having him share with you his journey and what he's experienced, because the accomplishments and what he's done is quite impressive to when you have a vision and when you put yourself in that vision and allow yourself to become better, right? And so, Dustin, man, I want to thank you for being on the show. And why don't you just give a little bit of background about yourself, and then I want to dig into your journey that we just talked about.
Yeah.
When was it? Last month?
So yeah, it was November 13th of 21.
Okay.
So yeah.
So we're leaving it hanging there. We're leaving the carrot, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Dustin, the floor is yours, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to take this time to, be with you and your listeners and things like that. So my name is Dustin. I'm based out of St. Charles, Missouri, which is a little suburb of St. Louis, Missouri. I'm a husband. I'm a father of two. I'm a coach. I'm a real estate investor. And so I wear a lot of different hats, yet try to keep them all the same. As of recently, which we'll get into that, but I also call myself an athlete now, which never in my life would I have said that before. So,
well, why don't you dig in? And so let's back up from a year now, because I know I started talking about basically last year seemed to be a pivotal point in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And things that you've accomplished at the state. So talk about maybe a little bit about where you were at and what you got involved in, right?
Yep.
And the coaching and things that you're doing, because everybody needs a coach. Even though you're a coach, you have a coach, right?
Absolutely.
And it just so happens Dustin and I are actually in an organization that just specializes in really helping people out with their vision, both personally, spend a lot of time there, and then it flows over to the business. But I'm more curious, because just from what you've done in the last year is really impressive. So why don't you kind of talk about what led you up to that? What in your mind, what said, I need to make a change. I need to do something different, and kind of where you're at today.
Yeah. So like you said, we are both part of, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Leadership Boardroom, which is different mastermind pods, if you will. And I was at an event, a speaker training event, actually, and was listening to it and talking about, signing up and working on your vision and having coaches and just being surrounded by the right type of people to lift you up, to help carry you forward. So I signed up for it. A year ago. I mean, I know the date, almost the time very well, but January 27th of 2021 was our first retreat. So I'm in a hotel room hotel conference room with 12 strangers. I mean, I didn't know these people at all. And that moment changed my life. So the format of the mastermind is you go around the table, you get 45 minutes. They say, what's going on in your life? What's not working professionally, personally? What can we help you with to move you forward towards your vision, right? Your vision of life. And, being I'm going to say it then, the pretty arrogant guy I was, because I've been blessed so much in life. I mean, I have, in my opinion, the perfect wife. I have two amazing children. I'm pretty successful when it comes to business. So I was like, guys, I'm not going to need this 45 minutes to go through this. Maybe we can tweak my business a little bit, but I'll go first. We'll just get this out of the way. 90 minutes later, I committed to probably the biggest challenge of my life, which I'll get into that. But I have been a well, for lack of a better word, I've been an obese person my entire life, overweight since I can remember, and not healthy. I never thought it really held me back, but until recently, I didn't know what it did hold me back with. But I mean, extreme obese. So January 27th, I was 317 pounds. And I said, that's the one thing I would like to get healthy. I've said that before, but I would like to get healthy. And through, we talked about coaching, but the coaches in that mastermind, they started asking those questions. And that's what a coach can do. That's what I do to my students. I want them to self-discover, for them to come up with their own answers almost. And the coaches started doing that. And it was, hey, the questions that came about of it, I made this commitment that 2021, I was going to get healthy. One of the coaches there, he asked me, he's like, what have I done that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, or I did the impossible, and I couldn't answer any. I didn't have an answer for that. Just was sitting there, and I didn't. A lot of the things that I do or have or everything like that has come pretty natural and easy to me. And he looked at me and he asked the question. He said, well, that's kind of a mediocre life then if you haven't had to work for anything. And I got to tell you, I was floored. A lot of the people didn't know if I was going to get up and walk away and never come back, but I agreed to it. I agreed with what he said was right. So through a lot more questions, we said, all right, this was the year I was going to get my health and I was going to take back my life. How I was going to do it. Couple, suggestions were thrown out. One was to run a marathon, and not against any marathon runners out there, but that sounded extremely boring to me. One of them was a fitness contest, like, a physique contest, bodybuilding, walk across stage with your shirt off. And I'm like, I would do that right now, even though I'm a fat guy. I'm not a shy fat guy. And as cheesy as it sounds, I'm born in the 80s, right? The Rockies, they inspired me, they juiced me, and I like combat sports. So I said, I want to box. And then it got into, I was going to box a professional fighter. So that was the challenge. That was the gauntlet thrown in November. I knew I was going to fight a professional fighter, 3 rounds with a professional fighter. And then I went away with that. And I said, all right, how is this going to happen? So it was a 290-day journey that ended up because I knew I had to make it bigger than myself. So I made it into a charity fundraiser where I fought a professional fighter for 3 rounds, trained every one of those 290 days. And today I'm 255 pounds instead of that 317 pounds. So you're down 60 pounds.
Down 60 pounds. Huh?
Yeah.
And you went in the octagon, right? It was a UFC fight, right?
No. It was a boxing match. So a boxing ring. Yeah.
Boxing ring.
Yeah.
And so how did you get a professional fighter to, I mean, how many waivers did you have to sign in order to get this?
There's a funny story with that was not so funny at the time. But so I have a really close friend of mine who was an ex-professional fighter who I helped sell him his house like 7 years ago. So he was my first call. His name's Dr. Jose Jones. He's actually a counselor that counsels people through boxing. I was like, I need help. He's like, all right, let's do this, champ. So I just started training. There's an up and coming fighter in St. Louis who I met through the gym. And I was like, man, you'd be the perfect person. Can we do this? Everything was agreed upon. We started promoting it, that kind of thing, until the Thursday before the fight. The boxing commission in Missouri, which I didn't know was a thing, said if I fight him, they were going to file sanctions against me with the Attorney General of Missouri, because he is a professional fighter, which in the state of Missouri means you're a licensed fighter through the state. So they had all sorts of rules that went along with that, and they would shut it down. They would take the event space's liquor license. I mean, they were serious. Like, this just got real fast 2 days before the fight.
Oh, man.
So, it's one of those things while you're trying to do something, you're always going to be thrown curveballs. And there was a lesson here. I mean, there was obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, really the 48 hours leading up to the event, because I planned on having other fights there. I mean, we were going to make a night of it. So that one stopped. I found a sub to replace somebody I was going to fight, an actually ex-professional fighter. So that was taken care of. But then all the other amateur bouts that night, USA Boxing stepped in and said, if they fight, we take all their cards, because they weren't getting a piece of the action. Oh, so if you're going to have a boxing event, make sure that everybody gets their money. Even though it's a charity event, everybody wanted to get paid, we found out. But my coaches, through other coaches, found the guy I fought. He was Charles Rogers out of St. Louis. Funny story, he was 90 pounds heavier than me, and I now know why there's weight classes. But I lasted the 3 rounds. My head was all right, but my ribs hurt. So
yeah, you didn't get knocked out. And then he battled pretty hard on. He took it to you.
I mean, to me, he took it to me. Now, if he was fighting another fighter, it probably looked like it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
But it was work, and it was just a humbling, amazing experience. But through the journey, what I realized is sometimes you got to do the hard stuff. We'll put it that way. Keep it PG. And what I realized is I started enjoying the hard stuff.
Yeah.
That, I remember it was 5 o'clock in the morning. It was raining. It was cold. It was like 30 degrees outside. And I'm out there, putting in my cardio because I worked out twice a day for 75 days straight.
So did you start out doing 75 hard first?
I did. March 1st, I started 75 hard. Yes. So I didn't know if you knew about that, but yeah, I did that, and I completed it. I was not going to restart. So I was doing 75 hard, and I had to get my first workout in, my reading in, and my picture in before 6:20 in the morning, so it wouldn't interfere with my kids.
Right.
And it was cold and it was wet. And I never forget it, this moment of my life, because I had this huge smile on my face because I was the only one outside at that time putting in the work. And that's when I started considering myself an athlete, which is controls my mind and my decision on everything now, because now I'm an athlete, I'm going to act like an athlete.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty powerful day.
That's pretty awesome. So was that day one of the workout then, or was that?
No, that was probably like day 15 or day 20 even of 75 hard. But I'm not a guy who's going to promote 75 hard by any means, but if you lack discipline in life, I would say do it, because what it does is it creates discipline, and how you show up in one part of your life is how you're going to show up in the others. Yeah. So through this year that I've created this discipline around health and working out and the diet and everything like that, everything else has gotten better too. My financially been the best year of my life. The relationship with my wife has been amazing. The relationship with my kids are amazing. I mean, everything just got better because I was showing up as a different person. So is there, 290 days, right? Like it's, I mean, I've done the, 4 or 5 months on and then 8 months off, type deal, as far as discipline. But now that the fight's over, right? What are you doing to maintain that discipline? And has it been a challenge, or is it now like because you've done it now for 290 days, it's kind of like it's that point to where now it's like on autopilot? It's definitely an autopilot. So I took 8 days off after the fight, which is really the first 8 days that I had taken off of working out, which most trainers and stuff like that, recovery is such a crucial point when you're working out. So, but I tell you, that 8th day, I was fiending doing something physical. Like I needed it because I didn't feel right after doing it. So now I don't work out 14 times a week anymore, but I do work out about 6 to 7 times a week. Yeah. So, still keeping at it, and I'm loving every minute of it. I'm still training as a fighter, yet I never want to step into a ring again. No, you don't want to do it again, huh? No, and it's funny. And the reason why, so it was a pretty emotional night for me, obviously. And there is there's a documentary on it, the mini documentary that somebody did on me. And part of that was playing right before my fight, but I could hear it. Yeah. And so I was emotional, why everybody was setting up and nobody could see me, but it was pretty emotional time. And my coaches were back there with me. And afterwards, said a little prayer, we're getting ready to go out there. And one of my coaches looked at me and he said, all right, now it's time to flip the switch on. Now it's time to get mean. Right. Yep. And what I realized right then is that switch isn't installed in me. No. I don't have the switch to go like a fighter does, to flip it on to, my goal is to go hurt someone else. Right. And I was like, that's why I cannot do this again. Mm-hmm. But I loved training, and I still love training as a fighter, if you will. So will you maintain the coach and stuff and train that way, or are you going to kind of change up the regiment? Or so I had a lot of coaches through this. I had 2 boxing coaches, I had a strength trainer, and then there's a facility in St. Louis called BioFit where there's 2 trainers there. So I still use the strength trainer, I still have the boxing coaches, and I still go to BioFit. So it's just not as intense. Like I said, it's not twice a day, yet I'm still seeing everyone.
So when you walked in, or when you were getting this kind of, they probably looked at you like, this guy's nuts.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
the first boxing coach, Jose, and like I said, him and I have known each other for years, and he's a great guy. He's like, all right, let's do it, champ. From from Puerto Rico, or I think, I don't know, somewhere down there, but has that accent. He's like, let's do it, champ. Let's do it, champ. And I was like, all right. And then the other boxing coach, he's like, you're fighting who? Like, he's like, you forgot about the amateur step before you got into a professional. And the strength trainers were just there, the whole time. And then I had a wellness coach who's an upper cervical chiropractor in St. Louis that made sure I didn't get hurt the entire time as well.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, what a journey,
Yeah.
I mean, and what's really interesting too is that what I love about the leadership boardroom and things that we're doing too is that, I went in there, my business was doing really well. And, I knew I had to work on some personal stuff, but kind of like you, I went in there going like, I want to just kind of talk about the business stuff, and the personal stuff got flushed out. And my wife was in there with me. Right. And you have people in there who don't care and can call your BS, like your belief systems, right out the window, and just call you out. And it's something that, I think that everybody should, Dustin, you coach individuals, right? But you also have a coach. And I think it just goes back to, no matter how successful you are in life, business and personal, you should always strive to be better. And the only way to do that is really, I think, surround yourself by people that love you enough to really call you out on your BS.
Yep. Right. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that.
I mean, it's so easy to surround ourselves with friends that are rah, and you can never do no wrong, but you're not going to grow, and you're not going to do what you did. I mean, that is pretty amazing. Down 60 pounds, training for 290 days straight, Yeah. And I mean, I'm curious to see, a year from now, where you're at. I mean, who knows? You might be fighting for the title. You never know. Even though you say you're not. Maybe you should go to UFC. Try that one next.
Yeah, there you go. And you hit on a lot of things there. I mean, I did a presentation after the fight to a real estate club I'm a part of, and it was the 8 tips. And one of those was, you have to surround yourself with the right people who are going to do what they need to for you. In coaching, when I'm coaching people or with my coach, I'm never putting my hand out to pull someone up. Instead, I'm standing below them and pushing them up, right? They're standing on my shoulders, or I'm standing on their shoulders to get higher, right? And that's what those coaches did for me. And I had never been called out like that in my life. I mean, when he said, so it's kind of a mediocre life, because I've even put myself on a pedestal, if you will, where I have an amazing life. Right. Like, look at everything I have, look at everything I've done. And when he said that, I agreed. And it was, I can't allow this to happen. I have 2 small children. So my oldest turns 5 the day after Christmas, and I have a 16-month-old.
Oh, wow.
And but seeing them, if this stranger saw that I was leading this mediocre life, what could my kids see? And, we talked about like obesity. I was obese my entire life. And that was because the programming I had as a child around eating. It's not like I had, eating disorders, but it was just the stuff I ate. So now what happened through this journey, I'm creating generational health. I created the habits in, my 4-year-old that I had the bad habits. Now I'm changing his habits, and we're creating the right habits to make sure, and that was so intensive to me.
Well, having young kids, right? Like, I think dropping 60 pounds. Well, let me ask this: are you trying to drop any more weight? What is there? Is there a goal of what you want to get to?
I never wanted to put a goal on the scale, especially through this. I realized the scale is just one of the measuring systems, but it should never be the most important. Right. It's, the percentage of body fat, it's the muscle, it's the things like that. Now, of course, because the scale is the easiest thing to look at, I would like to be between 225 and 235 pounds.
Okay.
Under a 20% body fat. 15% body fat would be awesome. So that's really what we're working on now, is just dropping that. And then there's not an end goal in mind. It's how far can I go? John Maxwell, focus on the actual growth, not the goal. And that's where I'm going with that. It's how far can I go? So I signed up for a Tough Mudder in April. we're going to do a 30-mile bike race in September in St. Louis and just see where this leads. But health
Awesome.
is all what I want now.
That's awesome. So, and you do coaching through Maxwell groups as well, right?
So I coach some of the Maxwell content. I'm a certified John Maxwell speaker and coach, which means I am authorized to coach his content. But I do coach businesses. I coach real estate investors and real estate agents because I'm both of those, if you will. But then also just life, because business is so easy. In my opinion, it's easier to coach on. But the reality of it is, before we can get your business right, your life has to be right. Yeah. And the only purpose of business is just to fund the perfect life you want.
And that was a major, mind shift of mine too, because from a business perspective, I mean, working with Sean, and he's like, from a business perspective, yeah, you have it all dialed in, but your personal life, you got some stuff to clean up.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how we always just go right to the business, right? But if we start with the personal, how it can change the business to the better, right?
Absolutely.
To what you just said, the business's only really job is to really feed the personal and to make sure that the personal is set. But yet we're so ass backwards in the fact that all we do is look at our goals, our business goals, numbers, KPIs, all this other stuff. And what are we leaving in the dust, right? Yep. Who are we not, or who are we neglecting? Who are we not caring for, right? And there is a cost sometimes of that success, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
And that's what, if I'm being honest, that was the biggest thing, because there have been times where I've made decisions to, look at a business perspective versus what's best for my family.
Yep.
Right? Because but in my mind, I'm like justifying it. Well, I'm providing for my family. I'm doing these things, right? That's going to benefit the family, but is it really,
Yeah. And that's a balance that we all have. I part of, I believe God's spoken to me this year. It's the people I want to surround myself with, or the people I really want to help is kind of that business father, if you will, because there's such a balance that we have all these things we have to balance. Yeah. And it's the fatherhood, it's the husband, it's the business that we're in, and it can be a job or it can be your own business. Doesn't matter. You're a business person, if you will. It's your faith, your friendships. There's all this stuff that we have to balance, and the reality of it is, none of it's always going to be perfectly balanced. Right. Certain things are going to be out of balance at some times, but it's to catch that unbalance. And all right, what do I have to do right now to get this back on track? Because the reality of it is, there was a lot of things unbalanced this 290 days of training. My life was committed to training. Yet the discipline and the habits I was showing up with, it made everything else just work. And then, of course, being honest with the family, being honest with even my coworkers. Like, I'd leave the office. Hey, I got to go work out. Right. You just have to be honest with what you're doing. And I think that helps the balance.
Right.
But then also keeping yourself in check. You mentioned your KPIs for your business. Keep your KPIs for your personal life. Right. What are things that I want to make sure I'm doing, and make sure those are done? That way you can have that balance.
Yeah. And that's good stuff. I mean, what a journey, really. I mean, for what you've accomplished. To start out where you were, right, and then that's good stuff, man. Dustin, tell me a little bit about, it sounded like, when you joined Leadership Boardroom, you're like, well, everything is good. From a business perspective, I'm killing it. Like, so what was it though, right? Like, what was it that you said, okay, maybe I do need coaching? Because a lot of times people in our positions think everything is fine. Like, why would I spend all this money? Right. So what was it that you intrinsically, or just maybe, talking to other people, felt like, okay, maybe this is something I do need?
Right. And that's a great question. So I've had a lot of coaches, and I'm a coach. So I've had the coaching, I've been a part of coaching groups, and it was funny because we were at the Leadership Boardroom event, the speaker series training, which is, how to sell from stage and things like that. And it was pretty amazing event, but that's a goal of mine, is to sell better on stage, to coach better and things like that. I'm like, if he's teaching this is the right group for me. So it just made sense, but it was 100% the business life. It was like, I'm going to get better as a coach. I'm going to get better as a speaker, and I can do more of what I'm looking to do. And yes, that's still happening through the organization, yet it changed my personal life so much. But I believe everybody needs a coach.
Well, and to that point, right? Like, what's interesting is that I thought that too, about the business side. Like, I want to work on, doing presentations better and this and that. And I tell you what, as you were talking about this, I was like, you know what? I got to tell Sean and just start working on the business stuff because he's been hammering me on the personal for the last year. I haven't even got to the stuff that we went to the conference for.
Yep.
You know, but I mean, when I say that though, but it's the right stuff, right?
Yeah. And it makes the business
I'm laughing. I'm
easier.
sitting here saying, you know what? I haven't even got into my presentation stuff with Sean yet. And I'm like, that was like the whole my mentality, like, oh, this is gonna be great, you know. And it's funny. It's just really funny how, you know, people that really care about you can just focus on the things that you really need to be focused on.
Yeah. And it makes the business stuff easier. When you're filing on all cylinders of your personal life, your presentation is going to be better.
Yeah.
It just is, you know, because everything else, because you're showing up authentic, you're showing up in integrity. And that's what makes, in my opinion, a good presentation.
Yeah, that's funny stuff. So as you were saying that, I was like, you know what? I have to start working on that a little bit. I mean, Sean's getting off easy, right? So, no, it's all good stuff. So tell us a little bit about, you know, Dustin, you know, I know you do coaching, and now you coach outside of real estate as well, right? Because a lot of our real estate focus. So if someone wants to get hold of you or connect with you, maybe get in the ring with you, how can they
go.
How can they connect with you and learn more about you?
Right. So they can go to my website, which is dustinhoog.com, DustinHoog.com. And I'm pretty open with my cell phone. It's 314-709-8990. And give me a call. I'd love to talk. I mean, my thing is, I want to see if I can help you for what you're wanting to do. And that's in personal, business, life. I coach to the whole person, not just one aspect. And that's what I make sure that we're a right fit. I do believe if I can't help you, I can find people who can help you though.
So how many students do you take on a year?
So, and that's different. I try to keep between 10 to 15 one-on-one students, which again, we kind of, I don't have, this is what you get, this is what you get. We kind of give a package to what the people are looking for on the business life, personal aspect of things. And I'll probably do, so I'm a real estate investor. So I'm a BRRRR guy, you know, so I own 60 doors and things like that. And I teach a lot of people how to do that too, which is a time consuming thing. So I'll take them on about 5 of them a year, but those last for months and months.
And then, so some of your students have been around for quite a while, I'm assuming too, right? They kind of stay in.
Absolutely.
And then do you get together for mastermind events too, like every once in a while, or?
So every once in a while, obviously we know the last 18 months has been crazy. It's something that I will be focusing on a lot more in 2022 is because a mastermind changed my life. I mean, that I will say a mastermind saved my life, not even just changed it, but it saved my life. So of course that's something I want to offer into and make them fun, make them a retreat setting. You know, depending on when this is going to be played, I may or may not have a campground under contract because I'm in negotiations with that. I'd love to have some coaching retreats there. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. That's
awesome. So, well, again, man, I really appreciate you being on, and your journey is pretty awesome. Congratulations to you and what you've accomplished this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and talking to you a year from now and just seeing what other crazy stuff you're up to. So
absolutely. I'd love that. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dustin. And again, to reach out to Dustin and get hold of him. The guy's got wealth of knowledge of just life and business. And he's one of those guys that walks the talk, right? It's not just a matter of you just talking to people. You have really done some things this year that are challenging, and you continue to do that. So I appreciate you being on, man. And again, thanks for
absolutely.
So, all right, talk to you later, bud.
See ya. Have a good one.